Hi, my name is Katelyn Todd. For my research project this session, I have been studying transfer students. In this presentation, I will be giving a brief summary of my research proposal for the Research Methods course I have been taking this session. I will discuss my research topic, problem in question, a review of the literature, my methodology, and my research timeline. In conducting research over the past 8 weeks, as well as over the past summer, I have focused on transfer students, more specifically transfer students in relation to residence life. My research topic for my proposal is how transfer students' experiences in residence life affect their involvement and feeling of belonging. Through my research, I have learned that transfer students are not the problem. The way institutions handle transfer students is the problem. Institutions do not treat transfer students negatively, rather it is the lack of positive treatment that transfer students receive. There are little to no programs that exist to specifically welcome and incorporate transfer students into life on campus. Transfer students are left on their own to connect and meet people. There are countless activities and mixer-type events for freshmen to attend in order to kickstart their social involvement on campus. There are a few opportunities like this that exist for transfer students. However, transfer students cannot be treated the same and lumped in with freshman students. Transfer students are different than freshman students because they understand the world of higher education. They know what college is like, they are just new to a particular institution. Transfer students are of great value to an institution, but the problem is they often do not feel valued. For the purpose of my research proposal, my research problem is as follows. Transfer students are often not integrated into campus life, specifically on-campus dormitories, therefore do not develop a sense of belonging. This proposal seeks to study this problem and answer the research question, what are the experiences of vertical transfer students living in residence halls at Grace College? The population of transfer students is growing. Because of the convenience of community colleges, many students are attending 2-year institutions and transferring to 4-year institutions to complete their bachelor's degree. It is also becoming more acceptable to transfer from one 4-year institution to another 4-year institution. The technical transition of credit hours, among other academic and financial transitions, is becoming smoother and more doable. Transfer students are no longer an uncommon minority. Transfer students should be treated with importance and value. These students have left an institution to attend another institution. Because they are choosing to go through this difficult transition, attending their new institution is clearly important to them. Therefore, they should be treated with importance by their new institution. The type of transfer student varies between lateral and vertical. The type of transfer that a student makes is key influence in their transition. Vertical transfer students are students who transfer from a 2-year institution to a 4-year institution. These students are often attend community colleges for 2 years because of convenience, finances, or another reason, but they still want to earn a bachelor's degree, therefore they transfer into a 4-year institution. Lateral transfer students transfer from one 4-year institution to another 4-year institution. Lateral transfer students are less common, but just as important as vertical transfer students. Both types of transfer students deserve to be treated with value. Faculty and staff are another key influence in the transition of transfer students. Student interaction with faculty and staff create a connection to the institution. Using faculty and staff as academic advisors increase the likelihood for this connection. Although students' primary goal is to earn a higher education and obtain a degree, and the institution's goal reaches beyond academic success. Institutions desire academic achievement from their students, but they also desire for their students to be well-rounded and successful members of society. For transfer students, residence halls can be a place to meet other students and make social connections. Holistic growth is essential for transfer students because it is important for them to feel connected to their institution beyond academics. They should feel connected to other students, professors, and faculty and staff. Faculty involvement in the residence halls is also important for all students, including transfer students. Including faculty and staff on resident hall events and mixers familiarizes faculty and staff with their students and familiarizes students with the faculty and staff. Residential life staff who live in the residence halls with students are crucial to the transition of transfer students. Resident directors and assistant resident directors serve as unofficial advisors to their residents. Transfer students need this type of go-to person to direct any questions or concerns they might have. It is important for residence life staff to know who the transfer students are and to make them feel comfortable and welcomed. The methodology describes the study's research design, participants, data collection, and data analysis. In order to do this, the experiences of vertical transfer students living in residence halls at Grace College were examined. This study, qualitative in nature, was not designed to be generalizable, but rather to understand these students' experiences at Grace College. This study used the qualitative research method in order to gain a fuller perspective and picture of the participants' experiences. In-depth interviews were used to gather information and experiences from the participants. Qualitative research often allows for a better understanding of experiences in detail. This gives the participants the freedom to explain themselves and their experiences more fully rather than some quantitative methods like surveys or questionnaires, which really provide a lot of options for yes or no answers, but don't provide a lot of opportunity to explain those answers. For this study, a selection of 4 students who transferred into Grace College was used. There were 2 male and 2 female students selected randomly with the help of the Grace College Registrar's Office. The 4 students' ages ranged between 19 and 21. The students' race, ethnicity, economical status, and other demographics were not used or considered in the selection of the participants. The 4 participants were contacted via personal email asking for participation in this study upon return from winter break in the second week of spring 2016 semester. Interview times were available during the 4th, 5th, and 6th weeks of the spring 2015 semester. The interview times were scheduled in 2-hour blocks, but varied in length from 40 to 70 minutes. Scheduling these long interviews in this extra time allowed and encouraged participants to fully explain their experiences and not feel the need to be brief in their discussion. The interviews were conducted in a private library study room with the interviewer, additional note taker, and interviewee. This location is a neutral space that provided familiarity to all parties as well as privacy and comfortability. The interview's audio was recorded using a tape recorder for the purposes of the researcher only. The interview began with a brief explanation of the research problem and proposal from the interviewer to the interviewee, along with time for the interviewee to express questions, curiosities, or concerns. The informed consent was also presented, explained, and signed in the beginning part of the interview. The interview itself consisted of several open-ended questions, but allowed for the interviewer to adapt to the flow of conversation and ask follow-up questions as the participant led the discussion. In analyzing the data, the first analysis focused on the differences in the students' personally and demographically. Following this analysis of the participants, the interview transcripts were studied, and after analyzing the content, it was important to look at the content in combination with nonverbals communicated by the interviewee. Those in the interview room were instructed to take note of these things when recording the interview. It is important to pay attention to nonverbals and body language, such as facial expressions, posture, and different body movements or hand gestures. There are some limitations to my research because of the qualitative nature of the research, but it is not able to be generalized to other populations. This study is meant for a small group of participants in order to fully understand their experiences through the transferring transition. Therefore, these experiences cannot be generalized, and it cannot be assumed that other students in their situation would report the same or even similar experiences or feelings. My future plan for this research proposal includes a completed literature review, research approval, participant selection, data collection, and final thesis completion. The literature review will be completed by the end of the first month. The research approval process will begin in the first month, and this research proposal will be approved by the end of the second month. The participant selection will take place during the third month. The data collection process will begin with contacting potential participants late in the third month and conclude with the final interviews ending early in the fifth month. Following the data collection, the data will be analyzed and synthesized during the sixth month to be presented in the completed final thesis paper by the end of the seventh month. My hope for this presentation is that you are able to grasp a fuller concept of what this research proposal would look like upon completion. This slide, along with the following two, present the entirety of my resources used for this presentation as well as my proposal paper. Thank you for your time and attention.